In the Animal Crossing series, there's over 400 potential villagers you could have living in your town or island at the same time, and that's not even including the special characters that show up in every game. But one thing that's really interesting is that many characters are actually named after real-life people, and you may not have even known that. Matter of fact, while working on this video, we found 33 villagers that are named completely after people that have actually existed, so we're gonna take a closer look. Now, there's some rules here. We're not just gonna be like, oh, this villager has the same name as this famous person, like Wolfgang. The only way that the villager can count as being named after a person is if there's like some sort of clever connection or an obvious reason as to why a villager would be named after someone. Also, some of these might seem like a little bit of a stretch. We're just speculating the best we can here, but I think that this is actually a really impressive list. First, let's talk about Marlo. We talked about him in a recent video, and this was kind of the inspiration for this entire video. Marlo is this cranky villager. He has this interesting looking house. He definitely has some gangster vibes coming from him. But if you've seen the Godfather Mafia movies, you would know that the movies follow the character Vito Corleone, who's played by actor Marlon Brando, hence the name Marlo. I mean, Marlo even says capiche. How great is that? Okay, next we have the villager Amelia, who's a snooty eagle villager. Now, eagles are known for flying, and the name Amelia is likely a reference to Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. Okay, Caesar's a little bit more complicated, but it is really interesting. So there's obviously a lot of references to like gorillas and King Kong. And then like, of course, historically speaking, Julius Caesar was a Roman leader, not quite a king because I didn't want to use that word back then. But there might even be a double reference because the original 1968 film Planet of the Apes had a leader character named Julius, and then the follow-up film in 1971 had another leader named Caesar. So there could also be a reference to these movies through this character, but it's also obviously basing it off of the reference to a leader type character like Julius Caesar himself. Next, we have another eagle in the form of Buzz, who likely is named after the astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who was the second astronaut to stand on the moon. Okay, we get to Angus, and this one's kind of a stretch, but it is really fun if we want to really dive into where this name comes from. Angus is like a cow villager, right? And he's most likely a play on Angus beef. Now, Angus beef is the type of beef that comes from a specific Scottish breed of beef cattle known as Aberdeen Angus because of the geographic location in Angus, Scotland, which got its name from Angus, son of Fergus, who was the king of the Picts, who had to reign from 732 until his death in 761. I promise this is the only one that's really like that, where it's really just a stretch that's going to be in this video. Next, let's look at the snooty horse Cleo, who most likely is actually named after the professional horseback rider and actress Cleo Ridgely. Ridgely starred in various silent films from 1912 all the way through the 1920s and occasionally had other work even after that. She also was known for riding across the country with her then husband in 1912. Apparently in 1915 she got captured by Mexican rebels and some American citizens like just came and saved her. I don't know, it's a wild story, but still interesting that we have an Animal Crossing villager named after her. Next we have Cousteau, the jock frog villager. He's an OG. He showed up all the way back in the N64 version of Animal Forest, and it's likely he's named after Jacques Cousteau, who was an oceanographer and a filmmaker and is known for creating the first ever aqua lung, which was used in producing underwater documentaries, allowing him to essentially invent the form of amphibious filmmaking. His contributions with the aqua lung would end up giving birth to the open circuit scuba technology that's commonly used today. He contributed in the French Navy. He was admitted into the United States National Academy of Sciences. He invented a ton of stuff that's used still to this day in studies that go on in the ocean. And now he can be a frog in your Animal Crossing town. Sid is a punk rock elephant you might get in your town, but he's actually named after Sid Vicious, who also's real name is John Simon Ritchie, better known by his stage name Sid Vicious. He's best known for being the bassist for the punk rock band Sex Pistols. Okay, so what's the deal with the villager Sireno? This one's way deeper than we actually initially thought. This villager has a big nose. And back in 1897, Edmond Rostand wrote a musical based on a French novelist and playwright from 200 years earlier named Cyrano de Bergerac. Now, the play is known for being based on a real person's life, but also exaggerating and fictionalizing a lot of the story. Nonetheless, this play slash musical would end up being hugely popular. It's been recreated in several stage plays, and it's been adapted into a film. There's a recent one from like a year ago with Peter Dinklage in it. I feel a little bad for Sireno, our little villager here now. Next, we can look at Derwin, who's much simpler. It's just a play on Charles Darwin, the famous scientist popularized the idea of evolutionary biology. Super smart guy. And then we have Derwin here, who just wants to eat some snacks. Okay, now we can look at Elvis, which is a pretty obvious one, but we'll still explain it. Now, lions are typically known as being the king of the jungle, and Elvis was known for just being the king. He also has the catchphrase, and his picture quote is "thank you very much." So there's like a couple of extra Elvis references to really just drive it home. Next, we have Gloria, a snooty duck villager in the Animal Crossing games, and since she's a duck, which is kind of similar to a swan, people speculate that her name is a play on the name from the famous actress Gloria Swanson, who's well known for her silent films. Next, we have Graham, who likely is just named after Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. He had a ton of other honors as well, and we can add having an Animal Crossing villager named after you as one of them. Next, we have Henry, and in a lot of media, a lot of the times frogs are depicted as kings and whatnot, and then there's obviously the very famous king Henry VIII, so they just kind of did a little play there calling this frog king character Henry, based off of the king. He wasn't that nice of a guy, actually. The king, not the frog. Next, we have Ike the bear, which is really interesting. So the US president Dwight D. Eisenhower had the nickname of Ike, and Eisenhower was known for signing the Smokey Bear Act, which was essentially a national wildfire prevention campaign, which became iconically associated with the famous character Smokey the Bear, which is who the character Ike is maybe based off of. So it looks like we have our own Animal Crossing in-game universe Smokey the Bear here, or US president, technically. Okay, next we have Judy, who we're not 100% sure on this one, but due to the fact that this character has the hobby of music, a lot of people out there have speculated that this character may be inspired by Judy Garland, the actress from The Wizard of Oz. I don't know if this one's too much of a stretch though, but let us know what you think in the comments down below. Okay, not to bore you guys with too much Julius Caesar lore, but the villager Julian may also be named after Julius Caesar. Now, not only did Julius Caesar claim to be related to the Roman goddess Venus, and Julian has this heavy astronomy thing going on, but his birthday also is March 15th, which is the day that Julius Caesar was assassinated, which is really metal. Okay, why do we have a pig named Kevin? What is the connection here? What is the meaning? What is the pun? What is the joke? This pig here is named after Kevin Bacon. The bacon is the joke. So now we have Kevin the pig. Okay, then we have the character Louie, who is just this very interesting character that has a ton of different references going on. In the older games, Louie was partially a play on the character Luigi from the Mario series because of the fact he literally just dressed up as Luigi, but there's a couple other things going on here. We've already talked about the relation to like gorillas and being king with the whole King Kong, and this character not only resembles Donkey Kong, another Nintendo property, but the name Louie might actually come from reference to King Louie from the Jungle Book. He was an orangutan, but he still was a famous king ape in some way or another. Now, the interesting thing is that the character King Louie was named after originally Louis Armstrong, the famous jazz singer, and Disney planned on having Louis Armstrong voice the character for the Jungle Book. However, the idea ended up getting scrapped to avoid a very obvious offensive stereotype. So instead, found someone else named Louis, another jazz singer, Louis Prima, who ended up being the voice actor for the character. Next, we can take a look at the villager Marcel, who very likely was named after mime actor Marcel Marceau, or commonly referred to by his stage persona, Bip the Clown. Marceau was known for being one of the most famous mime performers of all time. He also was an artist and obviously an actor, and passed away at the age of 84 back in 2007. It's very likely that the dog villager that is kind of resembling that of a mime artist is named after him. Okay, Mott the lion isn't specifically named after a single person, but we're still gonna count it in this list. He likely is a reference to the 1970s band Mott the Hoople, who later reformed under the name British Lions, which, kind of makes sense. He's a lion, get it? Okay, then we have Raymond, who very obviously is this businessman-inspired villager and is very likely named after the investment firm Raymond James. Now, this dates back to another investment firm known as Raymond and Associates, where back in 1964, Edward Raymond sells his company to Bob James, though his name remains on the company name, and the company was renamed to Raymond James and Associates, which leads us to this famous investment firm that we have today. As for Edward Raymond himself, he actually suffered a near fatal car accident back in 1964 right after selling the company. He almost died and opted into retiring early. So he actually never participated in the company Raymond James. Now we got our little penguin Roald here. He's a jock villager, but he actually likely was named after Roald Amundsen. Amundsen was a Norwegian explorer who was the first person to explore Antarctica, which is pretty cool. Now, this happened back in 1911, and he also was the first person to successfully reach the South Pole. Sadly, in 1928, at the age of 55, while flying on a rescue mission in the Arctic, disappeared, and it was presumed that everyone on the plane passed away. Okay, next one, a little more lighthearted, is Teddy. He's based off of the very obvious toy of a teddy bear, which was also named after Theodore Roosevelt. So now there's this connection technically where anything that's named after a teddy bear could also be a reference to Theodore Roosevelt, so therefore it is a villager named after a real person, I guess. Next, let's take a look at the villager Audi, one of the more popular newer villagers from Animal Crossing New Horizons, who's actually named after the Animal Crossing grandma who had a video go viral a few years back showcasing her Animal Crossing New Leaf Town with over 3,500 hours in it, and is of course a fan of New Horizons as well. But it's pretty cool to honor a passionate Animal Crossing fan, no matter what your age is. We'll put a link to the channel where you can watch Audi's videos down below. Okay, next we have Orville and Wilbur. Now, these two guys, not only are they total legends, but technically in the games, it never actually says whether or not they're brothers, just a pointless mystery that, you know, I like to think about from time to time. But one thing that is interesting, obviously, is the fact that these characters are, in fact, named after the Wright brothers, the two brothers who invented the airplane. Now, sure, there's been other people who have claimed to actually have been the inventors of the first airplane. There was a whole legal battle for a patent. I mean, the lore is pretty deep here, but my biggest takeaway is that if you look at pictures of Orville and Wilbur from when they were children, I kind of see the resemblance of the Animal Crossing characters. So yeah, if you take anything away from this, it's that. Okay, then there's Thanksgiving time, where you get the villager Franklin, or I guess he's not a villager, he's a character, Franklin, who comes around. He's like super paranoid in the first game, but nonetheless, his name's Franklin. He's a turkey, which is a play on the fact that Benjamin Franklin, originally one of our founding fathers here in the United States, said that our national bird should be a turkey. That didn't go through, but that's what he wanted, and I'm pretty sure that that's why this Animal Crossing character has the name that he has. Okay, then I almost missed this one, but there's a villager named Admiral, and he is a bird, and he's likely named after American naval officer Admiral Byrd, but spelled with a Y. He also has claims that he was the first person to reach both the North Pole and the South Pole by air, though it is disputed by some. And also he's known for discovering Mount Sidley, which is the largest dormant volcano in Antarctica. He also was a Medal of Honor recipient in the United States. And once again, he can add an Animal Crossing villager has been named after him to his list of accolades. I mean, he died in 1957, but you get what I'm trying to say. And last but not least, we have KK Slider himself, who is actually based on and named after Animal Crossing sound designer Kazumi Totaka. In the original Animal Crossing game, he even says that his real name is Tota KK, suggesting KK Slider is like his stage name. Nonetheless, KK Slider would go down to become an iconic character and one of the mascots of the Animal Crossing franchise, and honestly, it's well deserved. Kazumi Totaka has an extensive history making music for various Nintendo games that you probably love, and I think his work with the Animal Crossing series is one of his best works, so why not have a character named after him? Well, that's it for today's video. What did you guys think of these? Did any of these surprise you? Did I miss any that you guys know of that were very obvious that somehow I just didn't catch? Let me know in the comments down below. We might do a video down the road on villagers that are named after other references or Easter eggs or something, because there's a lot, but I think this was fun just to look at the ones based on real life people. So let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe. We're about to hit 30,000 subscribers. We might have already hit by the time this video goes live. I'm not too sure, but either way, maybe subscribe, help us grow this channel. Animal Crossing channels are far and few between nowadays, so if you like this content, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time with a new video.